Communication, communication, communication. And those of you that work in the field with trade contractors know what I'm saying. But I thought you said you needed. One of the things that we're working on, and we've had, again, we're doing workshops for the 25,000 licensed general contractors in North Carolina, is that we're going to come up with a 2-hour program on to teach them Spanish for construction. There seems to be a need for that.
You can do that in 2 hours, I'll come take it.
Well,
Key phrases and things
key
to help
phrases,
you communicate.
you know, and see if that's going to make a difference. And one of the interesting that you would say that. I had talked to a group in South Carolina a couple of years ago about doing that, and she said, well, if they're from Mexico, which one of the 160 dialects are you going to teach? So we're going to give it a shot rather than go. Everybody enjoy their lunch?
I told him we needed to do the mic dance to get them awake and moving, or move the class outside. Would make it hard for the filming, though.
Well, Christopher loves fresh air. He was doing the video two-step back there. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to talk in passing about policies and procedures, talking about leading your crew, engaging your crew, talking about a healthy job site and workplace. There's some major issues on job sites in the United States that we'll be talking about in passing. We are developing a 2-hour course on mental health for job sites. And we'll give you some numbers that give you some idea of that. Talk about managing customer relations, where we keep them off the site until you want them through, and obviously work through. All right, let's talk about listening. You all had chuckled when I mentioned the term, did you do, well, I thought you said you wanted me to. And then here we go again. So this is a listening exercise, and you've got the handout. Grab your pen. Let's see how well you listen. First of all, I would like for you to put a dot on the I. You got that? Put a dot on the I.
It's page 15.
Lower left. If you all heard of the, now you can care who they are, but there's and I first noticed that when I flew into my hometown is Lexington, Kentucky, and Bluegrass Field is located next to a gorgeous, huge farm across from a world-class racecourse track. And they had in there one day, I saw it, I've never seen it, one time, never seen it since then. There was in the field a mama bull, a papa bull, and a baby bull. So which one of those doesn't fit? A mama bull, a papa bull, or a baby bull? Circle the one that doesn't belong. All right? You see the dots across the top, upper right-hand corner? Put in Xerox. Write the word Xerox.
In between the lines.
In between the lines. Xerox. Xerox. All right. And in the lower box, which of the four in this sequence does not fit? Circle the one that does not fit. Drum, dog, sex, and child. Circle the one that does not fit. Everybody got that? All right. Now, how many put a dot on the I?
Oh,
What did I say?
yeah, on the.
Put a dot?
Yeah.
So we just assume that we're going to. All right. All right, good. All right, secondly, which doesn't fit? Mama bull, papa bull, baby bull. Do what?
Exactly.
Who said? What'd you say? Good. Mama bull. There's no such thing as a
We
mama
call
bull.
those cows, right?
Yeah. All right, good deal. Everybody got the XEROX between the lines, not on the lines. We often assume we just see some, well, we're going to. Communication, communication, communication. All right, and the next one. Which doesn't fit? Drum, dog, sex, or child? Are you ready?
Anybody?
All right. You can beat a drum. You can beat a dog.
It's not
You-
legal anymore.
Yeah. You should not, but you could beat a child, but you what? Can't beat sex. Was that a stretch? All right.
Okay, so don't don't rate the course on our jokes. Okay, we're trying to bring some life after lunch.
Which is tough.
Sometimes, but we've got a great
Fortunately,
group,
you didn't eat a lot of turkey.
right? So, when listening, there's a couple of things that I like to do. I like to repeat back what someone says. So you wanted me to hang the shelves 24 inches apart. They needed to be 12 inches deep. They needed to be wall to wall, and the bottom shelf needs to hold heavy things. So we need to put some extra bracing on that. It's putting the dot on the eye instead of assuming if I put the first shelves here at 36 inches where she requested, the reason was because they needed to slide boxes of supplies under the shelves. And then that second shelf, they had a rolly cart that they would carry the IV bags and the milk and the things for the child who had some severe disabilities. And then those higher shelves would just hold light items, and so they didn't need as much bracing, but they needed to be so many inches high so that those boxes could easily be slid onto those higher shelves in the closet. If you're open and you don't tune somebody out in mind or in body, you know, sometimes we have those people we have to deal with that are so abrasive. What I try to do is I try to kill them with kindness and just be open. You know, if they're thinking they're being funny and they're just being brash or rude, I just smile and nod. You know, get used to that when you've done taxes for a while, because people will tell you all kinds of stuff. It's the same with construction, with your homeowners and people. And be generous. Not only open, but be generous. You know, it doesn't cost you anything in the world. Some of the things we talk about cost money, but it doesn't cost you to be generous. If the person needs an extra half an hour of your time, say, okay, but at 4:30, I have to go. Just one more thing. One of the people we were working with, it would be, and just one more thing. And just one more thing, and then just one more, and 45 minutes later, it would be, and just one more thing. Okay, but we have an appointment, so we have to let you go now, and we'll talk again soon. Focus. In this technology day and age, we have our devices, and I used to have a BlackBerry. I don't know if any of you guys, and it would bing and bong and bing and bong and bing and bong, and every time I got an email and every time I received a text or every document, and it almost made me crazy. And finally one day I just figured out how to turn the sound off, and no more binging and bonging. It drives me crazy. Stephen always leaves his sound on, except for when we're teaching. And it dings and bings, and half of the stuff isn't even important. Put a spam filter on it, make a file. I told you guys about the free templates and things that I use from HubSpot and different sources. I make a folder that says HubSpot, and everything that comes from HubSpot.com goes into that folder. I quickly glance down through it once a week or so, and then hit delete all, and they're gone. No more binging and bonging. But focus. Keep focused when you're listening. Be sincere. Empathize. Put yourself in the audience's place or the other people's shoes. I decided to reinforce my ankles a little bit with my boots with the flowers on them. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. There's a really great YouTube commercial about putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and the guy sitting on the park bench goes through these 4 different people's lives and sees how hard it is. Then he gives his shoes to a guy who doesn't have any shoes, and the moral of the story was he was also lonely and going through something. And so the guy that he gave his shoes to realized that just because he looks like he's got it all together and has a nice pair of shoes doesn't mean he does. So empathize, be sincere. Smile and nod is one of my favorite tools. My grandmother used to say you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. Simple as that. Take notes. I am a note taker, and that way I can go back and say, did you say put the shelves at this height? Repeat back. We've already talked about that. And then probe, dig deeper. If you're not clear on something, don't just assume. You know what they say about assume? It makes out of you and me. So, all right, here we go. We're doing another activity because afternoons are tough. Best you can, somewhere on your page, draw a circle. It can be on the back of the circle. You don't have to put the pirate hat or the smile, but like I said, smile and be generous. In a perfect world, when facing someone, because you should always face who you're speaking to, when facing someone, what is the most effective way of communicating your message? Now, I'm going to give you 3 choices, and I want you to make a pie chart and percentage those out. 3 things. Words. Tonality and body language. That's one combined category. Oh, I'm sorry, that's 2 categories. It's words, and then tonality, and the third is body language. What do you think the percentages are? 33 for each? That's a good guess. I was shocked.
Body language is going to be the highest, 40, 40.
Which one's going to be the highest?
Body language is going to be higher.
Yeah,
Body language is
50, 40, and 10.
50, 40, and 10. Good.
Ooh,
That's,
wow.
all right, let's see what the smart people say. 7%. You will only hear or remember 7% of what we said today. But you'll definitely remember the cutlass and the long hair and maybe some of the bonus things that we offered to you. Voice tonality, the way we speak. You're not going to remember that I wasn't mic'd up in the first half of the class, but you will remember that I tried to bring levity with Mike.
Remember that.
I tried to smile and make this fun. And Stephen did his fair share too. He is all about the pirate life because pirates, they were the first, self-employed people in the world. They had to make a world for themselves because everybody was being taxed to Hule de Re, and then body language. Body language is so important. If I've got my arms crossed, you're not going to think that I'm a very nice person or that I'm closed off or I'm angry. If I got my hands on my hips, you know, you might think something else. So, but yeah, body language is super important. They always make fun of people for using their hands to talk. And so I'm just like, will you put those things away? You know, it's making me nervous. But body language is super important. Now we're going to get to something that's a little bit less fun. But let's talk about policies and procedures. The really great thing is so far we've talked about lots and lots of stuff. Okay, we've talked about employee and trade contractor manuals. We have talked about the trade contractor agreement. And some of us have talked about different aspects. We've talked about a marketing plan. And I don't know that we've gotten to the business plan yet. I think we talked about the business plan. And so out of that, out of all of those things that we've talked about, you've started formulating how your company is going to act, what it's going to produce, and what kind of people you want in your company and how you're going to grow them. You can take a lot of this out of everything else that we've talked about today. So I'm not going to bore you with things like workplace safety, but it's really good for you to have a manual that you can go, okay, what's our safety policy? Who's our insurance carrier? What do we do if there's a claim? What do we do if an employee is not conducting themselves properly? If they violate one of our policies, what are the disciplinary actions? You always want to have in your policy equal opportunity because you can get your pantsuit off for being discriminatory. And that includes us that are getting older. Age discrimination is not something many people talk about, but it happens. There are a lot of veterans. There are a lot of people who retired and just want to come back to work because they're bored or we talked to a fellow who said, I was too immature to retire. I would have stayed home and ate and drank myself to death, so I needed to find something to do. Attendance and time off. Talked with another person about an employee he had to let go because he didn't want to work. He wanted to take an hour lunch and not work Mondays and this and that and the other. And so attendance and time off. You need to have specific policies because you don't want somebody accusing you of something you didn't do. Substance abuse, and we're going to touch on that a little bit more. Stephen's going to come up and talk to you about what he is learning we were talking to Builders Mutual earlier, and praise them for offering things to another group like, is it JSI? JSI.
Yes, JSI.
And that's Job Site Safety Institute.
Yes.
Good, Fauna. Acronyms, good. Job Site Safety Institute. And what they are talking about, they're focusing on this mental health stuff. And they're focusing on what we're calling the silent epidemic, and that's substance abuse. You want to have a policy on that. And then you also want to have a remediation plan. You know, say your lead guy is starting to kind of fall off and maybe going through something with his friends or his family. He may be having a midlife crisis. He may be having another issue. And you need to have a remediation plan in place. Not everybody's going to follow through. But if you have it in place, it will let them know that you care enough to have a policy about it. I love BYOD, bring your own device. I think that cell phones at work are a big mistake. But my kids need to get me if it's an emergency. Okay. I understand. But unless you're on break or on an emergency call, please don't be on your cell phone. And this is a little bit different. We ask you guys, and nobody in here I saw was really using their phone a whole lot. But, you know, you have to have a policy. It's a workplace. You're there to make money and to pay these people money. So if you don't have a policy about it, you can't enforce it. internet devices, those fall into that. And then you also have to have some customer-facing policies, late payments, work hours, money back policies, and return policies. You also need to set some limits on those clients because clients can suck you dry. If you're in the business of dealing with clients and they say, just one more thing, how to put a boundary in place, and that's just healthy for you and good for them. Good news is that you've already learned a lot and written down some stuff about what you think. So now Stephen gets to come up because he's back there nodding too. If everybody wants to get up and stretch, get a glass of water, I'm okay with that. Stephen's okay with that. We don't want you falling asleep. And if you do, we won't bother you, I promise. I had geometry in like 9th grade right after lunch. Mr. Overby, bless his heart, would just let me sleep. I mean, I did the work and I got good grades, so he didn't bother me.
All right, Fee on leading our crew.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Ask for their input. Get them involved when it comes to problem solving. When in my varied career in my 5 decades in the construction industry is we were doing some in-home installation for millwork. Ran 17 crews. I was Mr. Outside looking after 17 crews, and we had Mr. Inside who got everybody up and out and loaded and that sort of stuff. We would have an issue. We were doing about 4,000 houses a year, installing millwork, siding, windows, and doors. And if there was an issue, what was the one employee for the builder that I went to see? If there was a real serious installation issue, what was the one person I would go to see? Who was it? Do you remember? Thank you. Excellent. Fee, the bag, make sure that he gets something
I
from
will.
the bag. No.
Let me grab it.
All right. This is it's a golden moment for you. All right. What I found, and you may have found the same thing, is I love the lead carpenter because they wouldn't fuss or cuss or scream or yell at anything. They would simply look at it, assess what needs to be done, and then do what? Get it done. And then we would go out of there. Now, if it was wild and crazy, and I know this is going to sound sexist and don't mean to sound sexist, I would go and I would make a service call with them, and I had my crew. I would show up in my work kilt. And so the lady was more interested in my work kilt than she was the fact that this didn't work or that was not installed or whatever. And so the lead carpenter would go in and do what he needed to do, and she just wanted to chat. I was there in my work kilt. It worked. And everybody was happy. So again, let them get involved in the problem solving thing. It would tell me if they have great judgment or not. It would also make them feel very important. Outside of the job site, sometimes you can be on their turf or not. Just be careful that you don't become personal relationships. Sometimes that can get a little gnarly if there needs to be discipline. And lastly, you can't, we're in the South. What are the magic words? Okay. How often do you say thank you to those that you work with? I don't know about you, but couldn't say thank you enough, because words go a long way. Look at them in the eye, shake their hand, and say, thank you. Boom, will make a difference. Now, what really makes a difference is that if their particular trade and you have the ability to have the homeowner there, which we don't encourage, but if the homeowner is there, Mrs. Smith, I would like for you to let you meet the trade contractor who's responsible for the boom. We're now doing the walkthrough, the punch list, and they're impressed with this, they're impressed with that. Let me show you the person that's responsible for that, and let them meet. I mean, they're not going to try to upgrade anything there or try to pull anything over, but simply look at the trade person in the eye and thank them for what they've done. And the last thing, reprimands should be constructed and should always happen in private. If they messed up, if they screwed up, then you ream them, but you ream them off the book. No one needs to hear what is there, and then we were going to say, we want to make sure that you don't do that again. All right. Fee, you got the healthy job site? What's that?
I think now would be a good time to introduce. Sorry, folks, I have to sneeze.
No. God bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Sorry. Now would be a good time to talk about while I get myself back together.
Yes. You want to talk about the healthy job sites?
No, I want you to talk about the silent epidemic.
Okay. Well, there's a silent epidemic that the National Association has found. And that silent epidemic is substance abuse. And it's on your site.
No, it's not. We didn't get it in time.
Well, no, I'm saying it's on their job sites.
Oh,
okay?
it is.
15%, these are NAHB numbers, 15% of all construction workers in the United States have some sort of substance disorder. Now, it could be or it could be this, or it could be this, but 15% of them. Now, the general population, 8.6%. Now, one of the reasons for that is when construction workers get injured, they go to see a doctor, Captain Blackbeard, and what does the doctor do when they go get injured? Yes. Yes. Without saying, here, you need this. I've got surgery coming up in, 5 weeks or something like that, talking to the surgeon in advance. And he was talking about some of the happy stuff he's going to give me. And Fee was in there, and we said, what to the doctor?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. I will suffer through. But this is good stuff. You won't have any pain. I don't want opioids. And what they're saying, and again, these are NAHB numbers, is that 15% of them have that. Now, there always has been, and I've been on job sites for 5 decades now. There's, particularly Friday afternoon, there's a lot of happy juice that's consumed. If they take their check because it's given to them and they go get it cashed or whatever, they come back with some happy juice. And when you're in Kentucky, it would be premium happy juice along with 7-Up or Coca-Cola. Not beer, but bourbon. And so they would spend the next 2 or 3 hours on the job site and don't need to be on the job site. Do not be in the job site. But that is just part of that. But part of the silent, again, the epidemic is the fact that what opiates have done to the population, and that's it. Now, you've got downstairs, and Fee's already mentioned that Builders Mutual, they have the Job Site Safety Institute, and they're trying to work through programs. They're developing it, and we're working with them. I have a graduate degree that allows me to be part of that sort of stuff. Fee has work experience where she's worked with folks that have those types of things. But the idea is to reduce issues on the job site and to keep them sober. And if they have an issue, get them the heck off the job site. Because there will be issues. There will be issues. And it's going to there may be, well, it could be life determining. They don't need to be on the job site if they're in any way, shape, or form, and all the various forms that they can have out there. And we're trying to be subtle about this. And the program that we're developing for North Carolina will be 2 hours. And as our friend back here said, it needs to be more than 2 hours to see the signs that are there. And if you see the signs, and there are signs, then how do you react to that? Rather than kick them in the butt or call the cops. That doesn't, hello. Call the sheriff. I'm going to call the sheriff. Deal with it. Deal with it.
And be a resource. The thing is that the National Institute for Mental Health and substance abuse and things like that have resources on the web that you can use. And we have a 5-step kind of thing. And are you in a place of danger where you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else? Is it okay for me to come and be with you right this second? You know, let's talk about what's going on. And if it escalates, then there's resources. They launched 988, I think back in December. It is, instead of calling 911, you call a national crisis hotline. It's 988. They deal with people that have mental health and substance abuse issues. And they can talk them down. They're trained professionals, just like 911 operators are trained to dispatch for emergencies and keep people on the line and help them, you know, live really well. 988 is designed for people that have mental health issues. And, you know, that can be something that if the first 4 things are they don't want to talk to you or whatever, well, why don't you take some time off and here's a number you can call to talk to someone who is, well, you'll be anonymous and, you know, they'll try to help you with whatever you're dealing with.
Would you advance that for you?
Sure.
And these are, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We make a big deal out the fact that if you have a friend that has cancer, oh, they've got cancer and they're ill and da-da-da-da-da. But if they have mental health issues, ooh, that's no. It's an illness, just like cancer or some of the other stuff, or arthritis, or some of the other stuff like that. So treat them with respect. June is Men's Health Awareness Month.
You guys are terrible at taking care of yourselves sometimes. And so the thing about promoting calendars and schedules, so if you're handing out weekly or monthly schedules to people, or you do that via an online program, you can include things like this. You know, all it takes is a Google search and you can find something in your community that can help folks if they're looking for preventative care, whether it be for men or women, whether they're looking for mental health resources, maybe for them or a family member or a child. Those things are good. Now, how many of you guys thought Mike had some mental health issues? That's the first thing I thought, oh my goodness, what is he on? Weekly text messages. One of the companies I worked for a million years ago was building the Redskins owner, Dan Snyder's house. And he was adding on a wing to put the players, and all of a sudden they come to me and everything's crazy because he wants an above ground wine cellar. So we start trying to find this above ground wine cellar, but one of the things they did was they sent us, and back then I don't remember if text messages were a big thing, but they sent us weekly messages. Okay, this is what Mr. Snyder's asking for this week, and the weather is supposed to be this, and then it was a saying at the end, you know, in March it was Happy St. Patrick's Day, and that falls this week on a Thursday. So if you call out on Friday, we're docking your pay. You know, like, I mean, just trying to keep it light, but those weekly messages were something that I looked forward to because then I knew. You know, I knew that the people above me were dealing with the things that I didn't deal with. I knew what the weather was going to be like, even though the forecast is wrong half the time. And I also, got a little funny at the end. Sometimes it was a really bad joke.
Well, one serious note on this, and we put this stuff in and we're not always sure what's going to happen. We did it for the first time at one of our workshops in North Carolina and got slammed by it, is the fact that the second most dangerous work environment in the United States for suicides is job sites. Industry is first, job sites are second. And so we toss that out and then we go from there. Got a text after the course was over from a high-end custom builder, one of the finest custom builders in the United States. One of my clients that I'd worked with, anyway, they had had a suicide by one of their key tradespersons that week, the week before. Had no idea. They thought everything, the signs were there when they got down and started digging. All the signs were there, but no one picked up on the red flags. They were just grateful that he did not do what he did on the job site, although he could have. So just be aware of that. The fact that they come on the job site doesn't mean that they left their life where?
At home.
Behind them, at home. And if things are not going along with mama or with dad, if you've got some women who are on the site, you just need to be aware that they're going to take that with them. Or if they have children and there are issues with the kids, that's going to be part of it. And it shouldn't be that complicated. It should be simple and sweet, but it's not. They're human beings, and that's who they are, and they bring that with them. So we just need to be super aware and be aware of these things. And that's why we're doing what we're doing with that 1-2 hour, and we think that it's going to be well received in North Carolina. We'd love to bring you to South Kakalaki as well and give you something else, another area in your quiver to keep your job sites. The key word is what?
Safe.
Safe. Thank you, sir. Safe. All right, here we go again.
All right. So we've already talked about CRMs.
Let's see what you get this time.
Client relationship management systems can also be
old-fashioned
used
silver
for your
worth
trades
something.
and your employees. Getting a little birthday wish, it was really funny. Stephen got more birthday wishes from the companies we do business with than he did from the family. And so, it's kind of nice to open a birthday card, and yes, postage is expensive, but, you could send an email. But people like getting something in the mail that's with their name on it. Use your CRM tool, whatever you choose to use, to track the different relationships that you have, including your employees. Your employees would love to know that you know their birthday. It's on their paperwork when they're hired. You don't have to give them a gift card or anything but a card, but you can get a relatively decent cake at one of the big box stores, already made, already iced, and say, you know what, there's a little cake for you to take home or share with the office. And this is something that we've introduced a couple of times, and Stephen and I are both professed workaholics. We put everything we have into our work, as I'm sure you all do. But every once in a while, when we met, he said, it's been 3 years since I've had a vacation. And I said, it's been 15 since I've had one. And even when I went on vacation, I would work. So here's a radical idea. Sabbatical, take some time off. Do you have a lead person that you could trust? Because what happens if you got hit by the proverbial beer truck? or had a stroke, or God forbid, something else terrible happened? Who will step up? I told Stephen in every business opportunity that we have that we always need to be training our replacement. If we want our legacy to continue, then we have to train our replacement. Who's going to step up when we're no longer able to? Because that day will come for all of us. It reinforces your trust in your team. So you know who becomes leadership or who can, do your job. Long gone are the days of job insecurity, because we have one of the lowest unemployment rates right now. There's jobs that can't be filled because there's not enough workers. People don't want to work. So, long gone is the day where it's so cutthroat that you're worried about your replacement. And if you are worried about that person, then maybe that's not the person you need to step up, because you want your replacement to be cutthroat. It also helps you identify the holes in your organization. So if you went down through the people that work for you or work with you and went, okay, who could I depend on if I got the flu or something this flu season? And I could not get out of bed for 3 days. It will identify okay, well, this guy, he's good at what he does, but I can't trust him to manage his own time or do what he's supposed to do. It IDs the holes. It also builds the company's ability to change, because if key people leave, and they do, because again, right now there's overabundance of jobs. When key people leave, who's going to fill their roles? So always be thinking about cross-training. That's something in the hospitality industry that we always did. If you were a manager, you had to know how to do everything in the hotel or restaurant. And it reduces your team, your crew's fear of failure. And it also avoids burnout, not only for them, but for you. All right, Stephen. You up. And that's just to wake you guys up. Now, I didn't announce this at the beginning of the class, but we don't allow weapons except for Stephen's cutlass and his, is it a dagger?
Well, you keep, pirates always had other stuff on them. And I just because it became weighted down. I didn't bring a skin dew. I didn't bring obviously you've got the cutlass and a short stubby knife that is just downright nasty. I left those. But you never know when somebody's going to come unexpected. And so you need to do something to protect yourself. And so they did. Those of you who are into antiques and World War II stuff, this is the German Navy officer dress dagger. That's about $1,000, so I'd handle it carefully if I were you. And no, you don't get to take that with you. Blackbeard, I'm going to take that with me home. They were always holding back. Now, what they did to keep their powder dry is that, as Fee said this morning, they kept their powder separated from the musket ball or the grape shot. And if they had 2 decks, and Blackbeard on the Queen Anne's Revenge, his ultimate ship, had probably 20 to 26 guns. They were 6-pounders, which means they could throw one of their balls hundreds of yards with great accuracy. But if they had them on the main deck, which is the gunwale, and that's what this is showing here, they had to have a gun crew up there, right? Because these were fairly hefty. They were made out of cast iron, so they had to pull them back. So they had to have at least 2 stout guys who had eaten well and who were relatively sober to bring the weapon back. Someone to clean it, someone to take powder in, someone to put a wad of cutting on it, and then they put on, in addition to that, that put the ball and then rolled it back into place. But they still needed powder, and the powder needed to be dry. And so they had what they call powder monkeys. They didn't have apprentices, they had powder monkeys. And so these were the 10 or 11-year-old boys that they were giving mama crap. And so she took them out to the local seaport and they went on board one of these ships. And so it was these kids that went below the gunwale pulling what? Powder. Hence they were called powder monkeys. And so one of them got with a marksman. If they were going against a military vessel, they would have Marines up in the mast. So what? This 11-year-old got shot in the head. No big deal. We'll get another one. Toss him overboard. But they had the powder monkey, but they kept the dry, because if they did not keep the dry, it's not going to fire. It is not going to fire. And there were enough misfires anyway, so they had to keep that going. So we're going to suggest that you keep your powder dry, and there are a couple of ways to do that. And one of those is from estimating. Now this is not an estimating, and how many here are using online estimating software? Well, it's there as well as fairly, and that's not something that we're giving you in the templates. But
Yes, we are.
Oh, we
We've
are?
got an estimation template.
Oh, we do? I'm sorry. You have an estimate template. You download it, you put your figures in, and it comes up with what the estimate is. Job cost reporting always is changing. Always and changing. Those of you that have been around any length of time at all, aren't you glad that your blood pressure is not tied to lumber pricing? True? Yes. Yeah. The Baptists would say amen. What's the cost today? Yes. Yes. And that's in spite of all the fires in Canada. It's consumed over 1 million feet of prime timber that we would be building houses from. That's it. Then you have the break-even analysis, and we're going to look at that shortly. And then you have all these accounting reports that are going to give you lots of information. Estimating. Fee, you want to talk about estimating?
Sure, I had to go catch my nose. Sorry about that. Okay.
Yes, you did. And it's lovely. I did.
So this is the template that we are going to offer you
At no charge.
at no charge. And basically, you can import it into Excel or Google Sheets and plug in calculations to understand everything that goes in. Now, in a lot of these, it's not going to apply to everything that you do, but it is going to help you accurately take the construction cost, so what you pay, and the article that you may not be able to see on your website, but the article talks about the levels of accuracy and the estimates, and gives you a markup percentage. So you can take all those costs and you can plug in a percentage, and then it's going to automatically tell you what your markup needs to be. Now, is your markup going to cover your consistent costs, your set costs? If it doesn't, then you're going to be in the hole with accounting. So these estimates, again, it's like, and I have an example of it, and you may be able to see it better if you'd like to have a look at it. But it it lists everything, all of the costs that go into the planning of a project, all of the costs that go into the material purchase, all of the costs that go into the utility connections if you're building new homes, all of the costs that goes into the material, all of the costs that goes into the sales, all the way down to appliances and everything. And this is just a spreadsheet. And again, it was from one of our kind providers that does templates, Smartsheets. Again, you can get free templates from Smartsheets. They will send you a bunch of spam mail. But every once in a while, it's like, oh, the real cost of doing business, you know? And so that article will help us with what we're pursuing here. Job costing is very, very similar. Construction job costing accurately tracks all of the costs associated with a job, including labor, materials, overheads, something that I just talked about. It gives you the detailed breakdown of an entire project so you can track expenses in real time. And so it's super important to have a job costing system. Again, we talked about accounting softwares before. I really liked using QuickBooks. QuickBooks for construction, I'm kind of in the middle on that. Love QuickBooks, but you've got to tell it what to do or hire someone to program it to do what you want it to do. There are some specific accounting softwares that can be used specifically for construction. You mentioned one, or was that a CRM?
That was CRM.
Okay.
So you had some listed earlier, Sage and...
Yes, Sage and Core are some of the ones that I've heard that people use and that work well for them.
All right. Now, this is the information that you need to find your break-even point, which is coming up. So you start taking this information and you put it into, now this is on page, those of you that are panicking, it's on page 21. What do you need? So you put in projected sales. Projected sales, and we talked about earlier about being specific when it comes to your goals. Be specific. Dollar amounts, or if you have an average home amount, how many homes? Owner's compensation. If you're the owner, what do you need to be paid? If you work for the owner, find out what the owner needs to be paid. That's part of this. Profit goal. What is the percentage? Now that's going to vary. That is going to vary. Now, let's talk about markup, for instance. NAHB, new construction, average 25%. 25%. If you're in renovation, 35 to 40%. If you are a CAPS builder or a CAPS renovator, it is 50 to 60%. And they're getting it. They're getting it.
For renovation only?
Yes. Yeah. Well, no. Kate, thank you for bringing that up. One of our colleagues, former student and a friend, builds modest houses on the coast in North Carolina. And the average cost of his houses somewhere between 1.6 and up. I mean, they're a decent lot. It's going to run you $600,000 if you can find one. And so he has this fella that showed up one day with his wife, and they open up the back of their $60,000 or $70,000 vehicle for folks who are need adaptive transportation. And she comes out in a wheelchair, and he wheels her around, and our friend meets this lady, and she just wants to look at him and just look at the ocean view that they would have if he's found some lots. And they have a set of plans. And so she gets back in and plugged in and has all the music going on, and she's having a great time. He goes inside to talk to our friend, the builder. And so our builder takes and lays out the plans. And you have had this happen to you. He's looking at the plan and going, he knows because of the architect, which comes out of Atlanta, there's no way that he's going to be able to build that roof line. No way. Some of you know the builder the architect I'm talking about. It's not going to happen. There's not it's not going to happen. In fantasy, in Disney World or Disneyland, yes, but not in reality. And so our friend is there and is now marking up the set of plans, saying, giving very specific, doing it in green, not in red, but in green, and gives him the set of plans back. And he said, this is what you're going to need for your wife to really live in this house that was designed by an architect who said it was accessible. It was not accessible. Had 3 old front doors, but the rest of it was not accessible. And who knows what he paid the architect. Those of you that work with architects know how costly they can be. And so our friend said, good luck to you, and that was it. 3 days later, he gets a call from the fellow saying, we want you to build the house as modified on this plan. Why? Because you know what my wife needs more than I do. He was CAPS certified and knew the questions to ask and knew what to look for. And it was like a $2.6 or $2.7 million smaller house near the ocean. So part of that is just knowing those things to ask. And it was not a matter of profit. It was just a matter of he was able to meet this family's needs, this woman's needs, for years to come. She was in her 50s. She was going to grow old looking at this incredible landscape, which is the Atlantic Ocean.
And be able to access her cabinets and her appliances and get through doors into spaces in the house that she needed to get into. And what does that bring? I mean, we're certified aging in place specialists, and we believe that we're all aging in place. That brings independence, you know? And we like to say that we make forever homes because people can live in them forever. It's why we moved to a 1 level, no stairs, you know?
4-foot hallways.
4-foot hallways. Now we're coming at 3:30-ish, and so I'm going to call a break, a timeout, and you guys take 10 minutes and stretch, go out and get some fresh air, grab some water. They have coffee over in the convention area where the vendors are sponsors are set up, and we'd love to see you back here in about 10 minutes. All right.
One of the real values of, and you don't get this when you do this stuff online, is the conversation that folks have who are not in direct competition, but are just sharing experience and sometimes may end up sharing trades or vendors because of that. Very constructive what we just saw here. All right, with this information that we have here, you take this and plug it in and you come up with your break-even point. And when you're starting to go through what your goals are, let's say now for 24, you need to know what your break-even point is and what you need to do to make that happen. You can reduce this or increase that, but the idea is that you come up with this that is total revenue and total cost. And what's the difference between revenue and cost? What's that called? Yeah, and profit is what? Not a 4-letter word. It's okay to use, particularly if you are working with fairly sophisticated customers, you can use the word profit. Now, if you're chasing Chuck in the truck, no. We were talking about some of the stuff that you've been burned by with MAST. We had one job that we didn't get it, but one of our CAPS buddies did. No, did not, because Chuck in the truck came by and was sitting in the lady's backyard, and she told him what he wanted, and he says, "Ma'am, we can beat that by $40,000. And the contract was going to be signed that afternoon. The agreement was going to be signed between our builder friend, and that. And so she went with the other. So 2 months later, we went by just to check the back deck, which was going to be $30,000 of it, had not been finished. Why?
He ran out of money.
Ran out of money. And so our contact went back and finished the job. Did it cost her more? Yes. Did it cost her more than the original estimate? Yes. So just be wise. But this is, you've got the matrix here and these questions that you need to ask yourself and answer those, and that will help you fill in the need to do just that. Now, one of the things that we had talked about, and this, I think Bugsy is partially responsible for the hidden cost there, is that,
Are we looking for hidden costs?
yeah,
Okay.
and I believe, again, blame Bugsy for this. Because as we were pulling this stuff together, I said, what am I missing here? And he said, it's the hidden cost. This is the stuff that younger builders, because part of what this thing was designed to do, to bring young builders in who had a lot of enthusiasm, but didn't know the subtleties that some of you have already, you know so well that you've forgotten. And so here is the list of them. What's missing here?
We talked about, in our break, we talked about some of those things. If you have an issue with utilities, the utility company is going to come out and they're going to say, this is what it's going to cost to run this from the this and do this. But what happens if the build or the design changes, if you don't get the utility companies back out, or someone makes a mistake or adds on something or does something differently, and they have to move the utilities? Whose cost is that? Well, the consumer is going to look at you and say, you didn't tell me about this cost, and that we didn't know we'd have to relocate the utilities, and that's a hidden fee. You know, we already included those in the kind of hidden costs. This is something that we used to say in the mortgage business. These are the costs that are on the HUD-1. You know, the tax stamps, the planning review fees, the zoning fees, the permits, the business license fees. And of course, if you have an incorporated or otherwise organized in your state business, then you've already paid for those things. But, you know, what is your portion of general liability for the house? What is your portion of workers' comp for the house? The deed stamp taxes. I don't know how many people would freak out over the HUD-1, and they would look down through, and it was like $1,600 for the taxes when they purchased a home. And I'm like, do you understand that that has nothing to do with your property tax? That's just for the courthouse to certify that deed and file it in their records. That is the deed stamp tax. It goes to the locality and to the state. So before the break, and then after the break, we talked about the break-even point. Now, how do you figure out the break-even point? This is basically a accounting sheet for beginners. Everybody knows or should know what a P&L is. Basically, it's the complete overview of the money that's flowing in and out of your business. Simple. Bottom line, I have had so many people come to me and say, well, I've got this much money in the bank. And I'm like, okay, but you've got quarterly taxes coming up. And then you've got quarterly insurance coming up. And you've got, so have you thought about next month's forecast? Because you won't have that much money in the bank. It may seem like you're rich now, but, you know, so a P&L is just the flow of money. And you can do that monthly, quarterly, annually. Cash flow statement. And this is super important because how much cash a business has generated over a specific period of time. So if you look at the first quarter and the first quarter is lean, then you know that you have to reduce costs somehow, and we'll talk about that briefly in a later slide. If the second quarter is super fat, then you know that you'll have excess money to save maybe till the fourth quarter. Your cash flow is important. You know, if your cash flow depends on sales of homes, if your cash flow depends on jobs completion, you need to be able to understand how cash flow works. The balance sheet. The balance sheet basically contains all of your assets. So it is account balances at that moment in time. Accounts receivable, because that is an asset. If you are due to collect X amount of dollars on a service contract or otherwise, that can be accounted for, and you know it's coming. Investment accounts, inventory, other assets like equipment and tangible property on any given day of the year. A lot of times balance sheets are only super important at the end of the year, but it gives you this snapshot of what you've got as far as assets go. And then cash forecast. Some people have never heard of a cash forecast. This report is how much cash you have at any given time. And what it does is it enables you, kind of like the cash flow statement, to anticipate for things that might be outside of the norm. We were talking about jobs that we have gotten burned on, investing hours and hours of time that cost payroll and then not getting the job. Jobs that have gone wrong that, you know, we've had to come out of pocket. I like the quote, "I know how to lose money, I don't need your help doing it." So I'm going to quote it the right time. So a cash forecast, and any of the accounting systems, and you would have to write it up yourself in Excel, but any of the accounting systems we talked about earlier will generate these reports. Some of them are easier to use than others. If your business is at a point where you really need some help, a certified public accountant would be a great way to go. I never took the CPA exam. I took the enrolled agents, which is more like the bar exam. They took us into an IRS building, and the room was like this, but it was just cement walls and cement floors, so it kind of looked like a detention center. And we had little student desks, and the first 3 tests we did on paper, we were the first group that did them on computers for the 4th exam. And I think now that there may only be 3 exams. So find someone that you trust if you need some help. It is worth the output to get a second set of eyes. If you're not understanding why things aren't flowing the way you need, find someone you can trust, make sure they're credentialed, check them out, and go from there. Now to wind down, we have 2 more sections. We're going to talk about staying the course. We're going to talk a little bit about scheduling, measuring those results from our SMART goal, and let's see what page we're on here. We have skipped back and forth a couple of times. I apologize for that. We are on
20.
That's right, 20. And we took out the office, so we're actually on 21. 20 is where we're talking about the 3 things we're going to learn. We're going to talk about measuring results financially for their SMART goals. And then we're going to also talk about just some really simple ways to have more booty in the pouch, more booty in the treasure chest. We're not talking about the other kind of booty, so we're not even going to go there. And let's see, Stephen, I think scheduling is you, my dear.
Right, scheduling. How many of you are using now the scheduling software where you load in everything, including the bill of material, and punch the button, and it gives you the schedule. It goes so far as to order your material, schedules your trades. How many are using that? It's there. We
Powered by
recommend.
AI.
We don't, no, we don't, it does, my experience with that, which has been extensive, is for those that do large volume building, where you build the same house with the exception of a different facade, time after time after time in a variety of developments. But the idea there is to keep it at, all right, what are some of the key milestones in the construction business? What would be some key milestones in scheduling? What would you need to be aware of? You've got the permit. Now what do you do? Foundation?
Excavation, maybe the very
Okay.
first.
Depending. One of the neat things, anybody here know any builders that are in the Asheville area? They put in, the green book that you have here is written using a model of Sean and Laura Sullivan, and they have a very successful business that is based in this area. They'll have up to $200,000 to $250,000 in, depending on where the lot is, just to get the lot prepared, because they have to go into a mountain and clear out a spot for them to do that, and then mate all the necessary codes and backfills and driveways and all the rest of the stuff that goes from there. So you start out with the base, and you said foundation. What else? These are key dates. Framing, mechanicals, good.
You said drywall?
Drywall, all right.
Finishes, finish.
Finish, yeah.
How about millwork?
Yeah, that's finished, trim, cabinets,
You do that, okay. And then you have what?
punch out.
Exterior.
Oh, that's already done.
Oh,
Yeah, that's done before you do the finish,
okay,
at least where we are.
okay, all right.
It should be, but we've seen a lot of houses, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, that they're not even wrapped. They're just sitting framed. And that is, it was hard for me to see. I thought, with the weather, the rain and all of that stuff, but when the builders can't build or run out of money, then, that's what happens. And so there's all kinds of problems. Just listening to the Palmetto pest control guy talking about, how these pests get in. And if you don't put in the bug pest control to begin with, then you leave it open for even 6 months, you could get some of these invasive species that will absolutely destroy the house that you're building. And so, I'm hoping that, again, because we've got this shortage of housing, that these scheduling and economic things are able to be overcome as people educate themselves like you are.
All right.
And then we did that. So
Yep.
let's talk about SMART goals, the progress that you're making, and when to abandon ship. We had a really great conversation about when to throw your hands up and walk away. Nobody likes to do that, but sometimes it is money saving and maybe even life saving to just throw your hands up and say, okay, either I can't or I won't, and this is done, and I can't do it, but you do it for this price. And so we'll talk about some of those things. And so the reason that we have these conversations is because those are one of the things that impact all of our businesses. Does anybody deal in KPIs? Is anybody, usually a KPI is used in a corporate setting, but I like to bring it down to, small to medium-sized businesses, because all KPIs are key performance indicators. So if your budget is this, and quarter way through the budget, you expect to spend 50% of the funds allocated, and your KPI is by quarter of the way through, you've spent 50% of your budget, because that means you've ordered all of your materials, all of the appliances, you've calculated in all the trade contractors, you already have those agreements in place. If that is your goal, start thinking in key performance indicators. What are my goals? What have I seen typically on my builds? Have I seen that 50% of the money is gone by the first quarter of the project because of all of the outlay of expense in the beginning? Is my goal to always be on schedule? And am I staying on schedule? All of the things that we've talked about lead into these key performance indicators, because it's all about time and money and outlay of yourself and your crew. So managing a project, especially large and complex ones, like talking about the gated community projects, there's a whole lot of extra steps in those things. If you're dealing with a historic property, there's always going to be extra steps in those things. And again, depending on what county you're in, there can be way more legal things in one county than in another county. So what are the focus on a few very valuable things to your business? And for me, it's always time, my personal outlay, and money. And then, of course, my personal part also has to do with the people that I work with. And, you know, these KPIs, if you can go back on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis and just review them, even if it's not specific to a financial report, then you can say, okay, have I achieved what I wanted to achieve in marketing with this SMART goal? And is it helping my KPI of making more money or retaining more clients? All flows together. And we've talked about abandoning ship, and there's no easy answer. Have some trusted people that you can consult with. They don't have to work for you or with you, but people with experience. There's lots of folks here that have decades and decades of experience that are in the associations that you can reach out to and say, hey, have you ever had this situation and what did you do? Watch for those red flags. All right, really simple. If you need more booty, you can increase your sales, you can decrease your expenses, you can increase your margins, or you can do all three. It's really, really, really not rocket science. And again, your SMART goals will help you with that. You know, if you're doing a SMART goal and it's not meeting the expectation that you had or the result that you needed, then maybe you modify that goal. And you say, okay, this isn't working. And all of us, you know, have some experience, so we just need to be aware. All right. We're going to talk about hanging on to your treasure and wrap this up for you guys. Insurance, a necessary evil. Regulations, which are frequently changing. How to use the HBA to your advantage. Doing good. All right, the role of insurance. Some of you know, well, all of you know what general liability is. It covers your behind if something goes wrong. General liability. Inland marine. Those of you that are on the coast may understand inland marine insurance. Inland marine has to do with anything having to do with, I'm sorry, I heard a flood. No, it actually has to do with equipment, okay? Anything that you have to transport. Comprehensive coverage. Comprehensive coverage is more to do with auto insurance and a full package of insurance or a suite of insurance. And Builders Mutual does a really good job of giving you, you tell them what your business is, and they'll go, okay, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. Some businesses only need this and this. Some businesses need, 5 different policies. It depends on exactly what you do and how you do it. If you're transporting stuff like trusses, we have an engineer friend in North Carolina that engineers trusses for houses. That's what his company does. They also do architectural work and planning and stamps and things like that. But he has trucks that transport those trusses, so he needs inland marine and some other coverages for his drivers and his trucks. If you bundle all of that, it becomes comprehensive. For workers' compensation, if you have, more than 2 employees, you are required to have workers' compensation insurance. What that means is someone gets hurt on the job, then you don't have to pay for it. The workers' comp comes in and pays for that. They will do an investigation. They will see if the person is at fault or you are at fault. If either one of those is the case, they will not pay. You are not liable to pay. But if either one of those things is not the case, if it was just an accident, then they will pay them and pay for their medical and pay for things. Super, super important. Very, very expensive most of the time. But again, Builders Mutual has great, great policies. An umbrella policy. If any of you, and during the pandemic it became more and more, if any of you work out of your home, you should always have an umbrella policy, because that covers what's not being done in the office. It will protect you and your property from being personally attached to any claims that people might try to file against you if you are working from home. There are also business umbrella policies that kind of protect the business properties, and that's separate than general liability, comprehensive coverage. Inland marine, of course, has to do with transportation, but the umbrella policy covers the building itself. So if, and this is so strange, if a stray dog comes into your yard and bites someone that is coming to see you to sign some documents at your house, who do you think is liable for that? Well, it's not the stray dog. So the homeowner's going to be the one that's sued for that. And it may just fly in court. That's the whole thing, that, you've got these injury lawyers that will make someone responsible. And to protect yourself, to protect your business properties, umbrella coverage is absolutely necessary. Having an agent that knows exactly what you do and who you are is imperative. Because again, you would have that conversation with your agent. You would say, yeah, I work from home half the time. That agent would say to you, you probably want to have an umbrella policy to protect your home, to protect your property.
Homeowners do that?
Not if you're conducting business.
Okay.
And that's a great, great question, because I had that question often. Doesn't the homeowners cover that? Not unless you've got a clause for business in the homeowners. Umbrella policies are super cheap too. It's just kind of, again, one of those necessary evils. I hate to say, go pay, $100, $200 a year for an umbrella policy. Well, it depends on how nice your house is.
They're reasonable.
They're reasonable, So talk to your agent and just say, hey, do you know anything about umbrella policies? I work from home part of the time. Just a suggestion. Insurance, like I said, is CYA, to cover you. Regulations, we're not going to talk a whole lot about it, but if you are in the industry, you need to know what OSHA says you can and can't do. If you're doing remodeling, they had this morning a lead-based paint class. In Virginia and North Carolina, you have to have a special certification to deal with lead-based paint, asbestos. I'm sure it's very similar in South Carolina. You know, people die and have serious injuries from that stuff. Know what the EPA and the RFP say. Know your state and local building codes. Who trumps who? Does the federal, state, or local, who has the most power when it comes to building codes?
Building official.
Well, yes. And it is. It's the building official, but that building official does work at a local level, okay? So you may know the federal codes, you may know the state codes, but if you don't know your local codes, because each locality is different. Licensing and regulations, and you have to know. I mean, sometimes if you're doing several legs of a business, you have to have more than one license. And that is not only business, but that's certification-wise. So check into that. And then always have a trusted tax professional or someone that you can talk to about what the IRS rules say. There are over 2 billion tax codes. And, you know, some of them make sense and some of them are very loose to interpretation. But if you know someone who knows what the code says, then they can advise you properly as to what to do. And that's just the long and the short of it. Stephen, why don't you come up here and talk about the HBAs? We love our association, our local associations, the local associations we work with around the state of North Carolina, and now the State Association of South Carolina, and then we also work with the National Association doing a variety of things.
Well, we hope that you are active in some way with your local. They're only as strong as their members. So you're paying your dues, so you want to get your dues worth out of there. Then volunteer for a committee. Or support an event. But support your local association. Do I need to repeat that?
No, we got it.
Okay, all right. One of the reasons is that they can be a voice, and I can't tell you what it is where you are in South Carolina, but there's a growing group of associations in North Carolina that have their own advocate, and they go to city council and to county councils and that sort of stuff and advocate on behalf of the builder or developer. It's becoming very litigious, and governments are seeing the home building industry as a cash cow. True or false? True? Okay.
Yeah, impact fees.
Well, you said earlier impact fees. Yes. State, and one of the things, and Mark, you've already heard Mark say, do you all go to the state legislature once a year and meet your legislators and talk? Why is that important?
So they know who we are and we have a voice.
Exactly. Now, do they listen to that voice?
Yeah,
Why do they listen to that voice?
because we vote for them.
Yeah, but you've done something else, though. So what else? You've made that. And that came to me when I moved to North Carolina 103 years ago. Getting to know the legislators who were on the state level, and one who was a retired school teacher, we just clicked. And so I was down there to see her about something else one time in Raleigh at the world's ugliest state government building. Goodness, it's embarrassing. And she said, "Stephen, you see this pile over here?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "That is the legislation that we're going to consider this session." And I'm talking about, I could put my hand on it. She said, "There's no way I can know everything that is on there. And I have a part-time legislative aid. There's no way he or she can go through that. So what happens when you come see me and tell me what is important and you give me the 1, 2, 3s, I pay attention to that because 1, you came to see me, and 2, you gave me the short version of it, and I will pay attention to that. It makes a difference. You can really make a difference in Columbia. You can for your association, for your business. It's an opportunity for you to give back, and it will cost you a day or 2 a year. It will always come back to help. It doesn't hurt that you know these people, because if you really need to send them something, they will give you they have 2 emails. They have an email and then they have a email. They will give you the email address, and it makes a difference. All right, let's talk about national. How many here have been to the International Builder Show? Worth the trip?
Absolutely.
What's the most important to you?
We learn about new products, new
Okay.
techniques, new products that are
Okay.
coming on the market that we wouldn't hear of until years later, and some of them have been very valuable, and also just picking up new building techniques, new understanding how to be more effective and efficient with what we do.
The education alone is worth it. So if you ever get the opportunity, spend a week and go wherever it is.
Now, this time it's in Vegas, which is not friendly to that, but they do a good job in Vegas. And it will be 1 million square feet of building materials.
So big.
1 million square feet. 400,000 of it will be kitchens and baths. You've not seen when you've seen a city block of Kohler toilets, but it's there. Get a designation. They've dropped all of them right. They're all suspended right now except for one, and that's the certified agent in place. It's the hottest thing on the globe. Why would it be hot for North and South Carolina? Because 7% of the 634 million boomers are moving here. And if you know what questions to ask or what to look for, it will put money in your pocket. I've got probably 300 CAP students who have been my students who are out there. All of them are doing well. Some, it's scary how well they are doing because they know the questions to ask. CAPS, C-A-P-S. I've talked to Mark, more than willing to come to South Kakalaki and do it down here and get your designation. CAPS, great stuff. And it's being revised. They've been kind enough to ask us to help us with the revision, but we're still certifying people with the old stuff. Need 3 days of your life. It will put thousands of bucks in your pocket. Now, you may want to go beyond that. And I was hoping that we had a couple more ladies here. The National Association is finally recognizing that women are making a difference in the construction industry. The current chairperson is a custom builder from the South. There have been others in the past. One of the ladies that I know real well, because she used to kick my butt when it came to coming up with spike points, Shirley McVeigh Wiseman, she was the first woman to become president of the Federation and went on to become Assistant Secretary of the Interior. All right? And is now retired, but is still full of piss and vinegar. But you can make a difference regardless of your gender, regardless of your age, if you get involved with these on a national basis.
And you'll learn something.
Well, yeah, that too.
All right, now,
All right,
we
okay.
promised we'd finish early and we didn't. As a thank you, Stephen and I are authors. Stephen wrote a book that's just a few short stories. If you have a grandmother, and we all do or did, I would please come and have a book. They're free, just like the Green Building books are. We're trying to thank everybody by just saying we appreciate you hanging out with us and listening to us go on and go on. Our last 2 slides are about doing good. Now, you all have the same program that we do in North Carolina. It's the mobile unit that is training the next generation. Be
You all
Pro,
pioneered it. You did it before North Kakalaki did.
Be Pro,
Thank you.
Be Proud. And we talked a bit about the next generation and bringing those people into your workforce. But the other thing is that the Raising the Roofs has been helping build homes with Habitat for Humanity since 2003. And so Habitat for Humanity is something that we believe in. We believe in their vision statement of trying to have everybody have a safe and decent place to live, because that's a groundbreaking thing. One of our children, or stepchildren, has MS, and so we support MS with this book. And just find something that means something to you and do good. It doesn't matter what it is, but if you do good, esteemable acts create self-esteem.
And put that on your website.
You know, do good.
Put that on your website.
You know, encourage your people to do good, because, again, esteemable acts create self-esteem.
All right, can I give them one marketing tip?
Yes.
All right. Whenever you close, have a conversation with your smartphone with the people that you're closing the house with. And they will say, what about you and your house, and the house that you built for them?
Hopefully,
They'll say nice things. You record it and you go put it on your website immediately.
testimony.
Testimonies are next to word of mouth, are the #1 creator of sales for builders and for renovators. Okay? That's your
Alright.
marketing tip for the day. Fee?
And then our final thought is know what you don't know. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron. It's like a paradox. It's where you park a pair of boats. 3 greatest challenges you're facing in the next 3 years. For some of that's retirement planning. For some of us, that is sales. For some of that is education. For some of that is workforce. But know what you don't know. If you can think about those things future, then it's going to help you have SMART goals and drive your KPIs and do things like that. So just food for thought. And with that, we thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you would please just fill out one of the comment forms for us. We won't look at them. We'll just, hopefully, South Carolina will have us back. And if there's a program that you want to see, Stephen and I love developing these things and giving you the information. Please write it in there so that we know what we can do for you next time. Also, if you want any of the templates and you haven't already given me your email, if you'll give me your email or you have a specific question, I'm kind of the research queen, so I can find some solutions for you. It may not fit exactly, but we can work towards a goal. So please stay in touch with us. We appreciate being here today, and we thank you for your time.